Hey guys, we are back for another Motu Classics review, taking a look at one of our rock warriors today, the newest. We have got Granita, and we've got her here in the Motu Classics brown mailer. She has the logo, her name, and then the back on these have that 10th anniversary logo. But inside this box, we've got her in that standard Motu Classics packaging, the green Grayskull bricks on that big backer card with the humongous bubble window, and she is just crammed in there. We've got the 10th anniversary logo, as well as a write-up, a amazing bit of artwork, and then some cross-sell on the back. So let's pull her out and take a look. All right, guys, here we go. We've got our Granita figure out of the package, and this is one that, I got to say I'm not all that enthused about overall. It's always good to get a new figure, and it's nice to round out the rock people, but they've never been a character type or figure type that I've really cared about. So, it's kind of an interesting one for me to take a look at. I think the rock thing is a weird gimmick, and it's never done anything for me personally. But of course, we're going to get to that. We have got to take a look at Articulation because she's got some, maybe not some weird stuff, but some different stuff. Not tons, but some different stuff to take a look at. So we obviously need to check out how she moves around first. And for the most part, she is pretty standard. Let's not make any bones about that. So the head can swivel a little bit, but she has, as you might expect, a humongous head of hair. So she really can't go anywhere at all. She has no forward, no backward, and the side-to-side motion is capable, but she immediately hits her shoulders. Arms go out. They go all the way around. You have to watch the hair, though. Bicep swivel, we have got a single jointed elbow, we've got hinge and rotation at that wrist. She has got an upper diaphragm swivel, which is pretty decent. She can move backwards and forwards a little bit and side to side. Legs go all the way out, kick forward, kick back. There is no rotation at the thigh. She has, however, lower thigh, upper knee rotation, so she's got it here. And then we've got a single joint at the knee. There's nothing at the boot though, so they swapped the two, and it might be due to the transformation sequence to get her in the rock mode. So there's that. That's the weird thing about her. It's kind of an odd place to swivel. And then we've got rocker and we've got hinge and pretty good motion down there. So, she's got standard Motu Classics articulation for the most part, but we've obviously got a weird joint around that thigh cut because of just where it's placed. And then of course we do have some hindrance at the head with that big mane of rock hair. As far as the look and feel of this figure, she is, I don't want to say basic, but there's not anything that jumps out at me when I look at this character. And it's not necessarily just the figure, it's just the character. I find her to be kind of But at the same time, I think they executed her pretty well. The hair in particular is really nice. It's a nice dark shade of green, ton of wash in there. It looks like hair, but it also looks like, if you don't know what this is, that could be something else. And of course, it's rock, which I think is pretty great. The face sculpt, despite not having a ton of detail, because she's a rock person, they're kind of devoid of, she in particular is kind of devoid of facial features. She looks pretty good. It's a really attractive face sculpt. I'm pretty pleased with that. Paint application on that is very, very spot on. There is a lot of color going on with this figure. Obviously, she's blue, but we've got a lot of reds and pinks, and we've got this gold that wraps around her waist for her belt slash gun port. I don't know what you want to call that. And then we do have an armor piece that sits over top. This is kind of weird because it's rubbery, but it doesn't really sit all the way down. I've seen some examples that are worse than mine, and you can pull it down a little bit and it'll sit better, but it doesn't 100% kind of wrap around. It's just kind of odd. It's obviously not going to come off. It is a removable piece, but it certainly looks like it's been glued on. You can see the tabs on this armor piece, but they don't really want to move. We've got the pink and the red painted on the arms, as well as some kind of fuchsia, purpley kind of color there. And then we've got more of that down here with her weird knee pads. And then we've just got some painted feet. Now, in terms of the figure itself, she's, like I said, kind of basic, just kind of standard. She is a female figure. She's got a pretty cool outfit if it's, not all that exciting to begin with. This just doesn't really do it for me. What's my issue, though, is that she has some wide hips, and they are far wider than I expected. There is, there's some serious butt hanging out of the tunic this time around. This is reminiscent of the Filmation Tila figure. So I'm not sure what's going on because the Sorceress isn't this bad, the Filmation Sorceress, but this one, there's a lot of gap in there. It looks like the crotch piece might be really, really thick this time around. So that's a bit of a bummer. I don't know if you're going to care about that. It doesn't really destroy the figure for me. It's just kind of an oddity why it was done again, because we know that there's been a big stink about that previously, so it seems kind of like a step backward in terms of that. But her thighs and her butt cheeks kind of hang out of, I guess, her underwear pretty badly. Now, as far as accessories goes, I guess she has quite a few, but it really depends on what you consider to be an accessory. So we've got this one gun, and personally, this is, again, my personal opinion. I'm not a huge fan of the rock people to begin with. I don't really like their gun either. I find it kind of weird and goofy. They don't hold them very well because there is, nothing back here to really grip on. So she grips on it kind of weird. You've kind of got to have the thumb hanging out in certain ways. But it also doubles as one, like I mentioned, she's got like the gun port on her belt where they can put their guns at their waist, so you can do this, because that's a thing. The gun itself is sculpted fine. It's, if you like the design, you like the design. I just don't really care for it. It's got a bunch of green metallic paint, which is very well applied, and then we've got the yellow metallic kind of gold, mustardy gold color, which, it looks fine. It is the gun I expected to get, so there's no craziness going on there. But of course, we do have a bunch of other stuff, and I gotta warn you, I'm not very good at all about transforming these rock people, and she is definitely the worst offender so far. So we're gonna try to do it on camera and see how poorly I botch this up. Okay, so here we go. We've got our Granita figure. We've got her base, and this is kind of what, kind of forms her and makes her into the rock. She's an odd shape, for sure. It's not exactly what I expect her to be when I think of, like a meteor or comet type person. But we've got 5 different pieces that attach to her, and, I'm not so sure that they are or aren't going to stay on. But we've got 2 that attach on her legs, 2 that attach on her arms, and then 1 that pegs into the hole on her back. And it's got this kind of butt flap thing here. You're going to have to use that. For the most part, they're okay. They've all got kind of, techno kind of paint embellishments inside because, they're techno rock sort of things. And then we got metallic paint on the clips. My only real problem with these is that the leg clips are relatively loose. They're not as tight as they should be, especially because of the fact that I keep knocking them off. And there is some paint rub concerns for sure. I've already got paint rub on her legs because of the clips moving around and things like that. In general, I have a very hard time doing these, so your mileage may vary on that. But these 2 on her legs actually clip together. And then what you do is you just sort of set her in. Like, there's really not a great deal to what you do. And you can already see that stuff's already fallen off of her. You just kind of bend her over and put her in this thing. And, if you need to, you can pop this one on her back while she's folded up inside this thing. And it's going to sit on her kind of like this. Sort of like that. This is a really bad attempt at doing it and demoing it, so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. So it's going to take some patience to actually get this to work right. I don't know if anybody actually displays them like this. I certainly don't. I find this to be kind of a weird, goofy gimmick. It's fun in the cartoon because it's a weird thing that they are, but it translates so oddly into toys. I like the fact that they do it, and that Super7 still went the extra mile to actually do this and give us this third rock warrior, rock person. But I just don't care about it. It doesn't really do a great deal for me, but you can do this, And she doesn't look too terrible. I mean, it definitely looks like a big glob of green rock type plastic, but she is a little bit on the difficult side to keep together once you start going with this. And here is a quick comparison with the other 2 of our rock people. So we've got Rockon and Stondar here. And I figured we'd do a comparison, not because, we need to look at all 3 of them together, although they do look pretty good next to each other, is mostly just to compare the issues surrounding why I think she is so difficult to transform. She's obviously smaller, so she does have a bunch of stuff hanging off of a rather small frame, which doesn't help to begin with. And these guys have a lot more rigid, beefier bodies to help. But these guys have different clip systems, different just ways to connect everything. So the rock pieces actually have full-on clips on them. You can see inside here, he's got a real clip back there rather than just 2 little pegs that honestly don't line up all that well like Granita has. And then their elbow clips and their knee clips actually peg into the holes in their knee and elbow joints rather than actually just clipping on, because these are just standard clips. They don't have anything to secure them in place. They just sit on the biceps and they sit on the upper knee. So I think that plays a huge factor into why she isn't quite as stable. I'm sure it has something to do with the body type, the size, weight distribution, some sort of toy engineering thing that I'm not privy to. But they do look good standing next to each other, so that works pretty well. And I figured it was just worthwhile to give you an idea of why I think she might be a little more difficult to transform than the other 2. So overall, I am pretty happy with this figure, if at the same time a little bit unimpressed. She just isn't one that I truly was all that excited about, and I pretty much knew what I was getting into with this one. The Rock People figures aren't my favorite, but she looks pretty solid in humanoid form. I don't have any true issues with her outside of possible concerns about paint rub down the future. And then in terms of the Rock form, I just don't care about it. It's kind of cumbersome and it's odd to transform. And at the end of the day, if you're going to actually use her for that, she's just a big glob of plastic, so it's not all that exciting. That said, it is nice to finally get to complete the trio. It's nice to round out another wave of Motu Classics. And even though she may be my least favorite of those 4 Classics figures, there's not a whole lot actually wrong with her either. It's just, you really can't compete with Dial-A-Mug, Karg, and Rap Trap at the same time. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Masters of the Universe Classics Granita figure. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.